Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, and here joining me once again this week, it is Wes Hilliard. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, Andrew. I escaped from the prison cell I was in before, and I'm now recording from my office, so I think it's going to be a little bit of a nicer backdrop this week.
That was nice that they let you out of that little cell. It was
Right.
very
Well,
small.
the one that you put me in, I believe, if I remember our
Okay, well, we don't got to get into the
conversations.
specifics. We don't need to get into the specifics. We simply have too much to talk about this week. It's going to be like a jam-packed, 3 weeks of this show. So right now we're going into 2024, right? The first episode 2024 right now, and we can talk a little bit about we're going to talk about CES preview, because the next episode will actually debut during CES week, and it's going to come at a very nebulous spot. Like, our next episode is going to drop on that Monday, but we're going to have CES unveiled the Sunday before. So, we'll be able to talk about some things from CES, but not all of them, because more stuff will happen throughout the week. And then the episode after that, we'll have a full CES roundup on smart home tech and gear. Probably get someone fun to come guest on the show. So we're gonna have a very busy few weeks here. So I guess let's start.
Happy
Is there anything you
New
wanna
Year.
see?
Just to say Happy
yeah.
New Year, Andrew. Yeah, because
I guess that's
today
okay.
is New
People
Year's
say
New Year's
that.
Day, right? Yeah.
I'm I guess we should also clarify too. Both Wes and I are not feeling the greatest. We've all been attacked by tiny germs with swords, and we're trying not to cough or
lovely
blow our nose
Post holiday, yeah, lovely time of year.
Oh my gosh!
Of course.
It took out my entire family. Everyone was sick and fevers and all sorts of crud. So yeah, I'm sure it just.
Did I call you Steven a
going
second ago?
around.
Just, you know what? Pretend I didn't say that. It's definitely a force.
We're gonna have to get a new guest for this episode.
Oh my
Let me
God.
see
I
who's
quit.
available
Yeah.
to record.
I'm going to bed, guys.
Can
I don't
Mike
know.
join us? Okay, let's start. What do you want to see at CES? Is there anything that you're hoping to see, or any other predictions that you have? Kind of just we'll keep it on the high level, but anything specific?
Well, let's see. I definitely want to see them park a literal car inside of a model home and discuss the future of living in a smart home again, because I feel like they do this every year. Someone parks a car on a stage inside of a model house. I don't know why, but this is CES every year. I don't know. Actually, I just love all the weird stuff. Because it's half of it never releases. Like, CES reveals all of this stuff. It's all preview technology. It's all experimental. Half of it never sees store shelves. I'm just here for the weird random stuff. I believe my first byline at Apple Insider was covering CES 2020, and I got to pick out the weirdest gear of that year. Go check out that very first article. I got to write a little bit of it. I worked with Amber on that, and one of the things was a suitcase that was motorized that you could ride around on like a little go-kart. So
And I've seen people use those. So
I don't doubt it. I haven't been to an airport in a long time, but I'm sure someone is riding around on a suitcase.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very curious at if we're gonna see any new Matter announcements, not just new products that support
just
Matter,
something.
but I want to know if there's gonna be anything that's supporting that new Matter 1.2 spec. That's what I'm curious about. Are we going to hear announcement of those, or is it going to
Does Matter have I'm sure they have a body of people that could appear on stage and be like, we're Matter, and we're here to say this is the next spec after the one that we just implemented. So that could be cool if we got something like that. But yeah, I mean, anything on the new Matter spec as far as appliances and stuff goes, robot vacuums, just there's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff anyway. So to hear if I haven't heard any rumblings personally, we get a lot of stuff to write about to get ready for CES, and so far it's mostly just been the usual, compatible with Google, compatible with Alexa and Siri. There's no really any mention of Matter as far as I've noticed so far. It's kind of weird, but that could just be related to preparing for later in the year, because a lot of this stuff can happen over software updates, and this is very much a preview event, not a final release event.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I'm excited about, which will lead us into our first news story, is I'm excited for the onslaught of Qi2 devices. Like, I think we are going to see a whole lot of really cool stuff, and I'm really, really excited to see what's just going to get announced.
Do you think we're going to get my MagSafe refrigerator, or maybe a MagSafe, or I'm sorry, Qi2 toaster or coffee pot? I feel like companies like Samsung or maybe Xiaomi, those guys, they just love putting things in everything. And when they get told about a new spec, it's everywhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Qi2 and like gas station pumps or something silly.
I mean, at least a Qi2 cutting board, right? It'll be tapered, so you'll have like a drip tray to the left and then a Qi2 MagSafe charger on the right. You know, just so that you can watch the guide as you're slicing your meat. Like, it'll be a very nice all-in-one situation.
And it holds your knife when you're not using the Qi charger. It's magnetic, right? So you just stick your knife to it.
For easy storage. Yeah. It makes sense. It's very terrible. Makes sense.
Furniture with technology, we discussed this last episode, but furniture with technology always just sounds like a bad idea. I remember the closest we ever got to it was Samsung trying to introduce the modular TV line where you would buy the dumb unit and then change out the CPU motherboard in the back every couple of years with new technology, which of course would be amazing for consumers, but they quickly realized they would never sell another television, so they stopped doing that very quickly. But like, I imagine like Burrow or some other company, like a couch company, implementing a bunch of technology and then like 2 years later it being completely useless, and you just spent $3,000 on a couch that is out of date. Like, what do you do with that kind of thing?
That's the thing with like, so we have a Lovesac, and they actually have this modular part that, so if you haven't seen like the Lovesac's, like every part of them is modular and washable, which is what we really like. So you can essentially buy the couch, take off all the covers and buy new covers after a few years and essentially have a new couch. Or if your dogs destroy one of them, you can just replace like an armrest with a new piece. And like, that's how their whole thing has been and will be. And then for like technology, they're at like the sides are hollow, and you can get a power piece that goes in there and gives you USB-C ports or USB-A ports or whatever, right, but is entirely upgradable. And they do actually, I believe, have one that's got like Qi in the armrest that for sure would be outdated, but you could just buy a new armrest and slap it into your couch and you're good to go. Not saying that's going to be a cheap expense. I mean, it's probably going to cost you $500 for a new armrest or something, but at least it's a modular component.
It feels like a solvable
power inside the ends.
It feels like a solvable problem. Like, like you said, just modularity, exchangeable parts, instead of hardwiring everything and making all the cables stapled into the side of, whatever furniture you're looking at. I feel like there's a way to do this with disconnects and different things. So, I don't know. I just think companies could get more clever here, but also it's a niche market. So how many companies are actually going to innovate in this area? But at the same time, if you go on Amazon and search for any kind of furniture, there's all kinds of weird stuff. Like, you can buy it, like, you can go the most ridiculous route and buy like end tables with LEDs in them and stuff like that now. It's just very odd. Instead of like, I don't know. I'm very futurist when it comes to my technology, but I want my furniture to still look like furniture. I don't want to look like I'm living in some kind of Hot Topic mixed with an Apple store. It's not really my style, but it seems to be a lot of like at least cheaper brands going that route, which is really funny to me.
Do you remember those SNL sketches that I'm pretty sure like a bunch are including like the best of Will Ferrell ones, but like they were like set in the future and all the furniture was really weird and they were like Swedish or something, and they'd always have like guests over and then they wouldn't know how to use the really
no one knows how to use the chair
furniture. Yeah.
I just my mind always casts back to the Three Seashells, if anyone knows that reference. Three Seashells. He doesn't know how to use the three seashells, guys. It's really funny. That would be... Do you know this one? No? Come on.
No.
Demolition Man, right? I believe that was like... Is it... It's not Anne Hathaway. Gosh. I'm going to get shot. Nope. Completely gone from my brain, but I believe it's It's one of my favorite movies. I just can't remember the cast off the top of my head for right now. But if you want a very silly futurist movie made in like 1998 or whatever, Demolition Man, where the 3 seashells are very important in the future, if anyone gets that reference.
I certainly don't.
Go watch it. It's actually worth a watch. Considering I always love going back and watching the movies that are set like in the 90s and imagining 2019, right? Like wasn't Blade Runner set in 2019 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Always fun to me to look at that. It's like, yep, we were so close to whatever this dystopia was.
Well, in the meantime, we can start getting into our actual news for this week because there's been a lot of stuff happening. Starting off with Nomad is announcing their new Qi2 gear. So they're announcing this, ahead of CES. They don't typically have like a CES booth or anything, but they have new Qi2 stand chargers. So this is like their typical stands. I probably have one of their regular ones sitting around my desk somewhere. Like, here's like their one. It's like this part. If you're watching the video, it's just the stand part of it. No Apple Watch, no expanded base, but it's Qi2. And it's a little cheaper. And it looks like to me that it's like $100 versus the MagSafe one, which is like $110. So
I think I would just get the MagSafe one, but the black base is much nicer. So it's a bit of a conundrum for me. I think I can live without the standby feature where you get memory for standby because it doesn't seem to ever work anyway. But theoretically, in a perfect world, if you have official licensed MagSafe, your phone will remember which widgets are active at every piece. So your nightstand will always show your clock, like that's just the clock face, and your living room will always show the widgets for weather and photos or something. Like, that's supposed to work, but maybe I'm not using enough certified MagSafe stuff to see it. But yeah, like I think maybe that's an interesting feature, but the $10 difference doesn't matter to me. It's the color of the puck. I like the fact that the black one blends in more with the black charger, so I would probably just go for the cheaper option just so that I could have the aesthetic, I guess.
Yeah, which is still interesting because they're doing different colors of MagSafe pucks too. So it's almost like, I mean, I guess this has come out a while ago now, the original stand one from Nomad, but it's interesting that there's not a bigger price differential between the two, and it's interesting that they still haven't done like a darker colored MagSafe puck. Whether that's on Apple side or on Nomad side, I don't know, but
the only one I've ever seen
colored.
The only one I've ever seen do that is 12 South, right? They have their actual black MagSafe puck. Oh, that I forgot about that guy. Andrew is currently holding up something from a brand. I forgot what its name is.
This is from Belkin. This is their 2-in-1 that this is their very nice little luxe one they came out with. But super soft touch silicone on the MagSafe pad. They also have a second one that's like a flat 3-in-1, I think, that's also colored MagSafe puck. And then Anchor has a MagSafe one. Their Cube. It's like a gray plastic with like a silicone ring around the outside. So that's got a colored MagSafe puck. So I think it's a thing. Just how you do it, I don't know.
So I know this isn't the Apple Insider podcast, but I have a question for you pertaining to the technology we're discussing. There's some rumor that MagSafe could come to a future iPad model. Is that something you'd be interested in? Like the iPhone MagSafe, not MacBook MagSafe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be really excited by that because I think there's a lot of other cool accessories that we could get away with. I mean, honestly, so I know you've reviewed like a few like the Lulu Look ones and some of those other magnetic stands that take advantage of some of the magnets inside of iPads. But I think, having some sort of like MagSafe version for easy mounting and, stand type stuff would be cool. I like the idea of like, for me, like maybe attaching an SSD. I could see an SSD or an SSD enclosure having MagSafe that could just go from the back of your iPhone 15 Pro to the back of your iPad and connect it, work away that way.
I mean, there's already magnets in the back of the iPad, and I don't see it being too much of a stretch to maybe accessory makers could get clever and use the iPad magnets to attach a case securely, and then have a MagSafe like puck inside of the case to attach MagSafe accessories to the outside, like mounting lights and brackets. But as far like, I think what people are imagining is having an iPad sit on a MagSafe charger that already exists for iPhone, which I don't see working because, like, if you look at any stand, it's made for the iPhone very clearly. It's the correct height for an iPhone. It's the it's really made for that device. So, and the iPad is so much bigger. The iPad Mini maybe is the only one that would fit on most iPhone MagSafe chargers. So maybe, an angle like that, a 12.9-inch iPad would struggle on 99% of these things. I think what would happen is, and this is because everyone's just imagining, well, oh yeah, I already have so many of these MagSafe things, my iPad will just work. Here's why I don't think Apple will do it, is because you'd have to replace every stand you own. You'd have to start over because you'd have to buy iPad compatible ones that just so happen to also work with your iPhone. It won't be the other way around. And we already have magnetic connection and data through the iPad using the smart connector. So when people say MagSafe's coming to iPad, I think it's a misnomer. I think it's just the smart connector is going to get better. But I just wanted your opinion on that. I mean, I could see things working out with like standby mode in the future, allowing us to do more with iPad. It's just, I'm curious about the implementation, but a little sidetrack there. Just wanted to bring that up because it made sense for the Qi2 and what Apple wants to do in the future to differentiate MagSafe from Qi2 and what it's going to do there. So,
I mean, there's also like actual cables. Like, you don't have to use a MagSafe like iPhone stand, but you could just slap any MagSafe puck you have on the back of it. And I would like that because sometimes, like, I like, especially on the iPads, when you have one USB-C port, I don't want to be able to use it for charging if I'm trying to connect something else. Right. So having a magnetic connection that could swivel around and change the orientation would be very convenient, just using a cable that was magnetic, like the existing MagSafe pucks. And the other thing, too, is like if it's going to stay the same speed. I mean, Apple already does faster charging speeds on iPads than MagSafe does by quite a bit. So there it would be slower and noticeably so, whereas
15 watts is not going to work.
Is not.
No. Yeah.
No. So,
I mean, this episode of HomeKit Insider is brought to you by MagSafe because currently my iPhone is sitting in front of me here, and it is on a MagSafe tripod stand. It just magnetically attaches. It's a very clever technology. I really enjoy it. I've tested a lot of MagSafe products, and I like what people are doing with it, what companies are innovating to here. But I can't foresee the iPad doing it in a clever way. I think Apple's going to have to really sell us on this one because accessory makers never picked up on the smart connector. We had one actual smart connector accessory beyond keyboards since the release, and that was a charging stand that took 4 hours to charge an iPad. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here, but I'm skeptical, of course.
Well, we have now talked for 18 minutes basically about Qi2 and MagSafe when we have a very big episode. So moving on, there was an update to the Starling Hub. So we talked about this a few times on the show. This guy is that little hub that's going to allow you to use your Nest cams and a lot of your Google Home stuff with the HomeKit ecosystem. And recently it just got a software update that's basically going to bring significant improvements with video quality, such as doubling the resolution and doubling the frame rate when working with HomeKit for like the original slew of Nest devices. So like the Nest Hello, Nest Doorbell, Nest Cam IQ, the Outdoor, all these things. Basically going to have better frame rate, better resolution when working with HomeKit. It's also increased the number that you can view simultaneously. Before it was 1, now it is 10. So if you're using something like HomeCam on your Apple TV or Apple's just widgets, where you're trying to view multiple HomeKit cameras all at the same time, you can do it with this new 14.2 firmware update. So nice update coming to the Starling Hub.
So explain to me the difference between the Starling Hub and Matter. Is Google not supporting Matter with their Nest products, or like is this a requirement?
These are old products. Nothing
right.
Like,
this is a workaround that's existed for a while. It's just Matter has come and kind of superseded it. Yeah.
More or less, yeah. But there's a lot of people who don't want to ditch their products. So
of course. Makes sense.
Let's see. So this was interesting. Coming from, let's see, basically, so we have a listener question towards the end of the episode, but someone wanted to know about this article that was very interesting that talked about how Philips Hue may be trying to use their lamps, their light bulbs, as motion sensors. And they have some of this technology in the whiz bulbs, which are like their cheaper alternatives. And they're basically it looks like whether or not they're trying to use this on the Philips Hue side of things, which I think is really curious. And they're doing these things like showing movement detected in like a human versus an animal. I don't know where you get children in there because I feel like they sit in between like humans and animals on the list of motion movements. But,
I would make an Animorphs joke, but I feel like it
interesting.
would be lost here. But yeah.
I mean, I for sure remember those covers of like
Horrific
something like
drawings
jumping
of turning into an animal. Anyway, yeah, no, this is definitely very interesting. I can see like theoretically how it works. Like I've read through this piece and it makes sense to a certain extent. It's kind of like almost like sonar with Wi-Fi. You're using the interruptions of certain frequencies in order to determine what's occupying the space, and we're just big bags of meat and water, and so signals don't travel through us very easily. Us human beings, me speaking about us as if I'm an alien. But yes, like it makes sense, but I'm not sure how useful or how well it could work. I feel like you'd have to be very close to the light bulbs for this. Like if you have a 9-foot ceiling, for example, I don't see this particular like with light bulbs mounted into the ceiling. I don't see this being particularly helpful. But if you have a floor lamp or a table lamp that you pass by, maybe it could work. But it's a nice theory, but I'm not sure the practice would be particularly useful.
We'll see. I mean, right now this is all kind of a little bit of speculation, but I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, I think
It's
it'd
a
be
good
cool because
idea.
their motion sensors work so well. So if they could just build essentially a motion sensor in and maybe be more accurate by being able to detect a small movement versus a big movement, this would be great.
I think more things should just implement more technologies. Like the HomePod should be a presence sensor. You know what I mean? Like everything should have Wi-Fi repeaters. Just saturate the network with temperature and like health sensors and all this stuff. If it has space for it, throw it in there. The fact that my HomePod minis can tell me what the temperature of the space they're in is amazing. Like more technology should be doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, a light bulb being a motion sensor, pretty cool. I think that would be worthwhile because we are running out of space in our modern smart homes for more stuff. So finding new innovative ways to have it in there is nice. That and people aren't too trustworthy of sensors because a lot of them look like cameras. And so already we have some security cameras inside of our home because it's useful to be able to check on the pets. And people are wary of those. And we explain, oh no, we have an automation. It turns off when we're home. Like we're literally can't even see the camera right now, and show them the app. And it just says no streaming or recording. People are present or whatever. But when we go away, we can see the pets. And motion sensors look so much like cameras. A lot of them look like I believe I have a Akara motion sensor that looks like it's a little camera on a little tripod, which is so funny to me. And yeah, it's not recording anything because it's not a camera, but people look at it and say, what is this thing doing here? Is it is it recording me right now? So again, light bulbs as motion sensors solves that problem as well because not really a good way to disguise motion sensors unless you just start putting them in teddy bears, and that kind of sounds creepy. So,
Yep, you made it creepier. You made it creepier.
that's what I'm here
Well,
for, Andrew.
so you mentioned HomePods. This is a good transition because we have some new rumors on the new HomePod 3 that is, purportedly in development. Pretty minor, very minor. But these new rumors are stemming from, a leaker on Twitter, which I feel like is where we get a lot of our information these days. Kosutami is basically saying that the new HomePod, codename B720, same panel size, same design as everything that we have with the current second generation big HomePod, but that the top has a convex little dome on the top. So instead of being like flat, it's going to be curved. So pretty minor in terms of an update there, but at least it's, some rumors surrounding this. Maybe, who knows when we'll actually see a new big HomePod. I kind of figured we'd see a new smaller HomePod before a big one, but either way.
So people are arguing that, so Kosi taught me basically is I wouldn't call them a leaker. They're a collector is a better term, because they actually go out of their way to find and collect parts. I believe they're based in China or they have friends in China in the supply chain, but they get a hold of a lot of DVT components. I forget what that stands for. Development parts. So basically components that were never meant to see the light of day. It's for testing. I believe if you check their X profile or whatever, they're like the tweet following this one is about a HomePod with a diagnostic port in the bottom, right? That's the kind of stuff they get a hold of. And this looks like it could definitely be a component for a future HomePod. I don't know what you think of this, but I think it would be terrible as an experience to have an LCD display like on top of a HomePod as it is today. It just does not seem like the form factor. And I understand Apple may be wanting to avoid a screen in the front of the speaker, because then you're blocking the speaker components, or you have to build the speaker around the display. So just increasingly gets larger, heavier, more awkward. So coming out of the top makes the most sense if you're prioritizing audio. But I don't think these kinds of smart displays are meant to prioritize audio. I think they're meant to prioritize displays. So the whole thing is just very odd to me. I mean, maybe it'd be cool to have the album art floating on top or something, kind of like I could imagine an interface kind of like a Magic 8-Ball where the album art kind of floats to the top and sits just underneath the surface. Like, that would be cool, but I don't know. What do you think of a on-top display for the HomePod?
I mean, we already have an on-top display for the HomePod, right? I mean, it does the swirly lights. It does those.
It's a glorified calculator display.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still already there. And this isn't necessarily saying that we're going to have a full high-resolution, display. Well,
that's the concept, though. Well, like, what people believe the next HomePod's going to do is add a full, like, color display that's able to produce images through pixels, right? Like a TV.
Yes, but I also don't think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be any. It doesn't need to be high resolution. They could just right now we have like a plus and minus button that are like etched up there. Basically, they could just show big arrows or something on like with the screen, and if it's curved, it'd make them easier to see, from different angles versus having to look top down if it was flat. So like I could just see Apple wanting to adjust things like in getting rid of the plus and minus when it's not being used.
Right.
Like, and maybe doing a waveform while music's playing, like something like a synthesizer, like basic things like that. But I'm not thinking it's going to be, I don't think it's going to like show you Siri results or anything like in text. And I don't think it's going to be that high quality display. I want an actual smart display. I want one with the screen in the front that you can take FaceTime calls from, like while you're working in the kitchen.
Yeah. An iPad that's a speaker, essentially. I really liked Google's concept that was announced and then instantly died and never spoken of again, where you put a Pixel tablet in a thing and it's a dock now and it becomes a tablet. Like, sure. Like, standby mode for iPad, I believe, is going to be something like that. And I'm sure everyone's going to be like, Google did it first. It's like, great, but how many have you seen in the wild? Approximately -5. But, yeah, I think the modular components of this, where Apple's argument has always been, you already have a tablet, you already have an iPad, there's already an interface. Why, like, we love selling stuff to people, but this is getting ridiculous, is kind of their response. I could see them introducing a complete unit that's a display speaker with a series processor running tvOS. Sure, that's been rumored forever. I wonder what kind of market there is for that from Apple, because it's going to cost $400+. Like, let's not joke about it. But I don't know. I have a technical question for you, Andrew. Where your HomePods are in your house now, you have what, 15, 16? Can you see the top of the HomePod on any of them naturally as you're walking around your home, or are they all on shelves and corners under TVs, stuff like that?
Not very easily. I mean, I can see one of my bedside tables pretty well because they're on nightstands and I can see them. It's
Right.
a little bit annoying because every time I bring my phone to set on like a charger, it picks up like the audio that's playing and all that crap. But I can see those, but like the ones in my kitchen, the ones in like Faith's office, the ones in our living room, like they're not like on shelves, but they're on like counters that you can't like look down on.
Right.
Like they're, you know,
Once you get
36 inches high and
Yeah, like once you get past your waist height, you have to careen your head over the top of the speaker to see the top of it, especially for the, actual HomePods, not the HomePod Mini. So that's, again, just kind of my argument for why an actual display, no matter how cool it is, whatever it could show you, where HomePods naturally find themselves, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like this new feature where you can tap your Apple Watch to the HomePod. I can never use it. The HomePods, they're not in places where I'm going to naturally be able to walk by and use handoff for my watch, except maybe the bathroom. But then again, I actually have speaking of MagSafe, I have one of those magnet stickers. I stuck it to the wall next to the mirror so I can put my phone there when I'm, brushing my teeth and stuff. So right next to the HomePod, which also, of course, does the automatic audio switching, which is fine usually because I'm just listening to a podcast, but the proximity is not ideal, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for more HomePod products. I want to see smart displays. I want to see more home theater implementations. I think there's a lot of wiggle room here. But speaking of home theater, I think CES is going to have a lot of that. And do you think we might see some Sonos announcements? Because I know we have some rumors about Sonos trying to step into Apple's space a little bit.
no, not at CES. They're going to do their own thing.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
right.
think
Because
so.
Sonos is too bougie for CES. That's right. So
Mhm.
we'll see what they do. I'm excited for this space. I just want to see more competition, more thoughts. But ever since kind of Google and Alexa and everyone died in favor of these quote unquote AI chatbots, I feel like it's all kind of been overlooked and kind of disappeared into the background over the last year. So we'll see what happens next.
So before we finish up our news, we should take some time and thank our first sponsor for this episode, Babbel. That's right, Babbel. It is the easiest way to learn a language, which is like perfect timing as we are kicking off the new year. So if you're one of those people out there who has a New Year's resolution of like, I want to learn a new language or 5 new languages, well, Babbel will be able to help with that. There's so many cool things about Babbel, but I spent a lot of time doing like Spanish during high school and in college, and I feel like it never really sunk in, and I still know like 5 words, and I started doing like classes again with Babbel, and I found it so much easier to start picking up on all these things again. And we travel a lot, and I'm telling you, I wish I had used Babbel before heading to even Iceland, because trying to pronounce some of those names is nuts, and Babbel can help with all of these things. Do you have some favorite features about Babbel, Wes?
Well, I haven't been to Iceland, but I've been to IKEA, so I can definitely agree that learning a different
Basically
language
the
is
same.
right. Yeah, I mean, they have the meatballs. It's really nice. Yeah, Babbel's Babbel's an interesting program. I definitely like that it's just not a shortcut, but it's definitely much easier when you're able to go at your own pace and take your time learning a language. And you're not going to get judged by any mascots looming over you with a weapon of choice. So Babbel, they have like 10-minute lessons designed by 150 language experts. My kind of speed as far as like language learning. We recently watched the Apple TV Plus movie, The Family Plan, and Mark Wahlberg's character knows at least 3 different languages fluently. He shows in the show, and it's like, well, if you ever want to be like a super spy, I think a language learning program like Babbel might help you get there anyway. At least, at the very least, show off to someone that you know 3 or 4 words in German. We'll see.
I know, and I love that, like, especially coming from an app, one of the cool things about it is it actually has, like, a speech recognition technology that's able to help with your pronunciation and your accent. So, like, not only are you going to get, like, the words correctly and know, like, the actual grammar of things, but you're going to get your pronunciations correctly or correct as well. So, here it goes. Here is a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com Babbel.com/HKI. Get 55% off at Babbel.com/HKI. Spelled Babbel.com/HKI. Rules and restrictions may apply. So,
Man, I think I heard of... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, rounding out our news, we have some random, like, CES kind of news from Samsung that we're not going to spend time on, but I just think is very interesting. So they're preempting their CES news, just talking about how they're going to be using AI in their kitchen technology.
Terrible.
So they have like a new 4-door flex refrigerator with AI Family Hub Plus. Great name. Now, I have one of their existing Family Hub fridges, and I really like it. But it offers, so it has this like look inside feature where I can like pull up the app and I can see inside the fridge. Like it. Helpful. You're at the store. Do I have that thing? Is it on the shelf? I don't know. You can look and see. But it has this like, right now on my model, it has, I don't know what you want to call it, basically like a preschooler's knowledge of food. And It's always like, hey, do you have taco shells, baby food, squid, and leftover meatballs? And it's like, no, none of those things are in my fridge. And it like wants to add them to my food list of like things that I have to make it handy. And it's so bad. So I think this is really interesting and a pretty cool way to use AI to actually know what's in your fridge and be able to make this kind of stuff more accurate. And then being able to use AI to like suggest meals based on that stuff.
I don't know. I mean, we've seen AI's accuracy in the past, and just looking at this image, I know it's a PR image, but I mean, take a look. We got a refrigerator full of just who buys these groceries. First of all, I don't know what they're planning. They should probably get arrested. But just going down the list, I'm not going to name all of them because there's like 35 items in here, and all of them expire tomorrow. But it's an apple, an avocado, a full head of lettuce, corn, but like just corn on the cob is the picture, which is really funny to me. Garlic. We have an entire eggplant. We have 2 kinds of onions, some kind of squash, orange, peach, pineapple, plum, strawberries, watermelon, and a lemon. I don't know who has all of that in the fridge at the same time. Certainly not me. I'm not one of those people who has, like, I have a full fridge of food. It's just, you don't have a refrigerator big enough to hold all these things.
People put onions in the fridge and put their garlic in the fridge. So I'm like,
and the potatoes
on that level.
Who puts potatoes in the fridge? Like,
well,
I don't know. The whole thing is weird. So my assumption is nice try, but I think the look-in feature where the human eyes can look at the thing and see what's in there, that'll help. I just, we know these things, what is it, hallucinate, and they're going to hallucinate some fun foods for you into there. And I can't wait to see what recipes they offer.
We've had people touting AI for years, but it wasn't until this year that AI was able to do basically anything real. So,
right. I mean, it'll be an interesting feature to watch. I just wouldn't rely on it until at least it was time-tested kind of thing, right? I wouldn't buy a refrigerator for this feature.
Who's relying on this? Like, no one's relying on it, but I think it can become increasingly handy to be able to know what's in the fridge and then give me a list of suggested recipes based on that. Using AI, I'm about it.
Does this refrigerator come with CarPlay? Let's see. It has a 7-inch touchscreen display.
Okay, moving on. I have a couple hands on here. Maybe we'll just do one. We're gonna kick the faucet to another episode once more.
You keep kicking the faucet.
I know, because these are slightly relevant time-wise, but they just arrived and I just got them installed like just before the Christmas and the holidays and all that stuff. These are my whole home permanent outdoor lights that work via Matter from Govee.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you talking about these. So you got them installed and then ripped them off the wall and brought them back to the podcast? Is that what's happened?
No. I have one extra strip that I had not installed because I'm debating on. Okay, my house has like a face on it, like a porch. So I went around the porch and I went around like the rest of the front of the house, and I still have a little bit of length left. And I'm like debating, like I'm going like partially down the side, or just like trimming it off. Because what's cool is these are trimmable, so you can actually cut them to length and just end it where you need to end it. But I hate like just not utilizing more of the light, so I kind of want to like run it down a little bit more on the side of the house or something. So I was on the fence. So I have not finished installing like all of the lights, and it's just kind of partially hanging
what kind
while
of
I finish up because it's been raining.
what kind of lights are these? So are they accent lighting? Are they RGB lights? Like what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so the lights themselves are pretty cool. So if anyone's watching the podcast on the video side, you can check these things out. But basically, they're these tiny little squarish cube fellas, and they come in white and black, and mine are the white versions. You can see 6 little LEDs inside of this little domed piece that sits on top. And you mount these to, in my case, I mounted them to the soffit underneath my gutters, and they want them fairly close to the house, because they actually create like this down-shaped piece of light that shines on your house to like bring out the lights more. So we have a white house, and then when these go on there, they actually hit the white walls of the house, and it really casts like this like cool triangle-shaped piece of light coming down from each of those bulbs all around the house, and it just looks really, really neat.
Will you use this in place of holiday lighting? Like, are you going to still put up your Christmas lights, or are you going to use this to accent your house with Christmas colors, or what's your plan here?
Well, yeah, so there's obviously lots of options that people could choose to do with this. So first off, they can be considered more of like actual utility lighting, because they are a bunch of downward-facing lights, and they are full color spectrum. So you could go holiday colors, or you could just go with your whites the rest of the year, which is why I like these as permanent outdoor lights. So just change your scenes based on the time of year. So year round, I can just keep these off, and I have like these little scenes, like whether you're working outside and maybe you just want some extra light going on, or 2, you like arrive home and the lights on your house turn on. We have no street lights like right in front of our house, so it's a nice like ability to get some extra illumination as we pull in our cars and unloading and stuff like that. So I like just having white lights on the house because they look really nice and charming. And then around the holidays, you can do whatever you want. So they can sync to music, they can do different lighting effects. I have them blocked out right now, kind of candy cane style, with like 3 red, 3 white, 3 red, 3 white, all the way down through the house, and they just look really cool. But they can also like breathe and move. All sorts of crazy cool stuff that they can do. They're a really, really neat smart set to set up.
As with any HomeKit addition to your home, we have to do a wife check. So what does Faith think of these lights?
She loves them. She really does. We've gotten a lot of compliments on them. She thinks they look really, really nice. Cords are nicely out of the way. They're permanent, so we don't have to do this every single year to redo the lights.
And that adhesive should be pretty strong.
Practical aspect. Mm-hmm. And they do have, so there's adhesives on the back of each of the lights. They do send you a whole extra set of adhesives if you ever needed to remove them and replace them or something like that. And there are added ones that are like little clips that'll hold the cables in between. So if you ever worry, like, just for, I mean, it's only like a foot between each of the light bulbs, but you can put an extra clip there. So it's like added strength and holding the whole thing up. So far, we've had no issues. Everything's been staying up there for the past couple of weeks, even in frigid cold weather. So all good so far on that front. But yeah, they also work with Matter, so you can control them through the Home app, the brightness. Because you can't independently address them in HomeKit when you change the color. They're all one color. But through the Govee app, you're able to go in and change individual colors to the bulbs, whether it's sections or individual bulbs.
Nanoleaf actually figured out a way around this using scenes. Does Govee offer scenes within HomeKit that allows you to change the colors individually?
I have not messed around too much yet, but I would hope so.
Right, because I know you have the Nanoleaf triangles or shapes, and so like I can actually tell it to do the rhythmic Northern Lights pattern on Nanoleaf from HomeKit through either a Siri command or the tapping a scene button in the Home app. I would assume Govee has a similar ability. Sure, you can't go into the light settings and pick each color, but at the very least it does give you that ability to go to pre-programmed settings, which that's what most people are going to do. I doubt anyone's going to go and individually adjust 50 different individual LEDs on a whim. So
Yep. So I've been pretty happy with them. They've been very, very fast and responsive. They show in the Home app every single time. They work through Siri. Like, everything about them has been absolutely spot on. So I was really impressed with these things.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely very excited to. I'm in a rented home right now, so I don't really like doing too much to it. I have done like random installations of HomeKit stuff like thermostats and door locks, but I don't want to get too permanent like lighting mounts. So this is definitely something I'm interested in when I purchase a home in the next year or so, if the market ever lets me. But yeah, I definitely want to have permanent installations of lights in various locations, like around a porch or even just accent lighting. I don't know. It just sounds like a good idea to me, especially just so I can climb to the roof one time and then have lights for, I don't know, various holidays, Halloween, Christmas, that kind of stuff that I can toggle at a whim, not have to worry about. So definitely
Absolutely.
something I'm looking into. But some of these things are super expensive. I think Govee is one of those brands that does well with the technology and tends to land on the lower price side without being quote unquote cheap. So yeah, like sounds like a good innovation from these guys.
Absolutely. Since we're running long, we think we have to take time to acknowledge our second sponsor before getting into some listener questions. And this time, we're talking about Shopify, which is great for two reasons right now. So first, there are all of those sales going on, right? It's right after the holidays. Everything is on sale. So as a user, you are probably going to be using Shopify even if you don't realize it. And on the flip side, if your whole, New Year's resolution is finally start that business that you've been kicking around, Shopify can help you do it. Whether you're selling physical goods, selling services, selling digital items, you can do all of this stuff with a Shopify site. It is powering so many of the biggest sites out there. Nomad uses Shopify. If you're one of our common Apple Insider users, you've probably gotten stuff from Nomad. We just talked about them today. Allbirds, like my favorite shoe company, they use Shopify. From a customer point of view, it makes it so easy because it can store payment information automatically. It'll accept Apple Pay, so it's like one click to do your whole purchase and everything is done for you. And when you're shopping from 100 different sites that are all using Shopify, all of that shopping experience stuff can pool to the Shop app. So you can see all of your purchases and track it all. In one app, you can see when stuff has shipped, when it's in transit, when it's out for delivery, all from one central location. So there's so many benefits here. There's reason that actual developers and merchants love Shopify, and there's reasons that customers all like using websites that are using Shopify. Like, I knew that I liked Shopify just from all these stores that started offering it before I even realized that it was Shopify. And once you kind of see it, you notice it every time that you were shopping around. Wes, have you noticed websites using Shopify?
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of the stuff I order from, I think Adams, the shoe company, Satechi. It's one of those things that as soon as you see it, you know it, you trust it. It's just much better than going through whatever random web interface a developer put together, asking for your credit card information that just feels a little sketchy. Kind of like shopping on Amazon or something. You know what you're getting. You have an account. You have a system. You feel safer there. Shopify kind of does that, but on a wider basis by being available on multiple websites. So when you go to buy something, maybe it's guilty shopping and you saw an Instagram ad for some silly thing and you go through the process of buying it and suddenly you realize, oh, this is a Shopify checkout. Well, it's much less sketchy now because now you know at the very least your information is safe and maybe you get to use Apple Pay and your preloaded information is all there. And again, like you said, it shows up in the Shop app. So I just think it's definitely my favorite way of seeing things flow from a shopping metric when you're outside of the usual shopping methods you might have. So
Absolutely. And Shopify can grow with your business no matter how small you start off or how big that you end up growing. There is an endless list of third-party integrations and apps that support it. There's ones for on-demand printing, accounting, chatbots. There is so much stuff. So go ahead, sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/HomeKit, all lowercase. So go to shopify.com/HomeKit now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/HomeKit. Thanks to Shopify for sponsoring this episode. So let's go ahead, round this out, Wes. A couple things here. We had Mike who wrote in. He was the one who was talking about the Hue stuff up above and whether they're going to add motion sensitivity. So basically, they have a question for us, which is, Whiz bulbs. Now that both Whiz and Hue support Matter, does that mean that Whiz bulbs will work with the Hue ones in their app? And that's a good question that I don't 100% know, because I don't have any Whiz bulbs to test out. But if all of your Matter devices show in the Hue app, then the Whiz bulbs should show in the Hue app. But I didn't even know, I guess I didn't even know if the Hue app showed other Matter devices, because I had never checked it. Right. I would just use the Home app as my Matter central point.
Yeah, I don't venture outside of the Home app very often, except maybe to check for a software update. I know like Nanoleaf has the option to show external devices within the app, but you can't generally control those. And I think Nanoleaf's implementation of Matter is still very early days. You can't do a lot within that app. I would have to think that Hue is similar. It probably shows the status of those other devices, but I wouldn't say that you'd be able to control them. I mean, it's worth giving it a try. If you already have all these devices anyway, what's to stop you from just checking it out? Go open the Hue app and try it. But yeah, I'm with Andrew here. Everything I do is within the Home app as far as actually controlling the device. So I know some people prefer the Hue app, especially since you can connect your Hue account to third-party apps to do different controllers. It's just not something that I've dealt with too much personally.
See, I don't think that it's going to work, just because, so I'm looking, let's see, if I go into like the studio here, all I'm seeing are lights. I'm not seeing anything that's not basically a Hue product in the Hue app. So I do have Matter accessories that are in my home, and when I'm looking inside of the Hue app, I'm not seeing my Eve Energy smart plug. It's not showing here in Hue. So maybe because they are lights, but my guess is Hue is enabling Matter to work with other things, but they have not redesigned their app to actually act as a Matter hub, a Matter controller. So that's
quick
my
question,
guess, Mike. Go ahead.
Quick question for you, Andrew, while we're in the reader segment. What's your preference as far as third-party home apps for different things? For me, just to help you with your answer, I would prefer it if I could just if I could do everything from the Home app. If I had the option, I just wouldn't have anything installed other than the Home app and do all of my updates, all of my everything from Apple Home. And I know that's might be a little limiting, but again, that just goes to show that there's a lot of work that could be done for the Home app to make things better in the future. What do you think?
I like the Home app quite a bit. I don't have any really problems with it, but I think if you want to do things more advanced, it's a little too watered down at times.
Right.
But I like that they really prioritize kind of quick actions, and I'm getting really used to those that pill navigation at the top, so I can just open it up, filter by lights, and then get to the room really quickly. It's seeming a lot quicker now, and I like that they do actually support widgets and all that. So there's a lot of benefits to the Home app at the moment, but I still use third-party ones for different things, like the Home Batteries one, just to kind of try to manage all of my different sensors that are battery-powered and get those replaced. Ones like Home Scan that gives you a database of passcodes is really handy, or Home Pass.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
Scan.
I wouldn't want these to go away. I want those integrations to stick around. I just wish the Home app had more optionality, more control over certain things, especially stuff like firmware updates. if I never needed to install the Wemo app, for instance, that would be okay with me. Whereas like the Hue app might be more important to install because I need to be able to control my play areas for TV syncing and stuff like that. So there's certain reasons to have certain apps, but having to have every single app installed, I think, is just it seems like more than necessary, especially when the Home app should be able to do all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Like there's odd limitations. Like I wish we could. The firmware updates is a thing, right? And that's possible to do firmware updates through the Home app. The developers just have to implement it. And then on top of that, you have other things like that Apple just doesn't allow third parties to do, like viewing HomeKit secure video data. I think someone else could design a hell of a HomeKit secure video, viewing app that was just way better and like could filter or like just do a bunch more things.
I mean, HomeCam's pretty good.
But
have you used HomeCam?
HSV.
Are you sure?
You can't view recordings anywhere but the home
Oh,
app.
right.
You can't do live cameras,
the
but
live
not
stream
recordings. Yep.
Yeah,
So HomeCam is great for
limitation.
just viewing multiple, but that secure home data, which I always found interesting. It's like, okay, you could unlock your door from third-party apps, but you can't view recorded video that's essentially saved and encrypted in the same way. So why like the door to your house is like okay in third-party apps, but like viewing
some odd limitations.
Video, it's clearly just security related, but it's, I don't know, unnecessary maybe sometimes, or a little overbearing. I wish there was, slap some Face ID biometrics on there to access them, and I don't know, maybe they just don't want them being able to like stream them remotely, but Apple seems to always have that on lockdown of like being able to stuff only on your phone. So I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely go for security.
Our next question here, John, quick one. So what are the chances that the August smart lock door lock will ever gain home key compatibility or capabilities? If we're looking at the existing models, that's going to be a big zero because there's no NFC capabilities on the existing door locks. If we're looking at next-gen devices, absolutely, without a doubt, because Yale, so Assa Abloy owns things like Yale as well as August, and Yale does have plans for things like Matter and HomeKey and all of that stuff, so there would be essentially no reason other than them just maybe eventually trying to kill off the August line that they wouldn't add things like HomeKey. There are already, Yale locks that support HomeKey, so it would be a no-brainer. We haven't had a new August in a few years now, I believe. So I could see next-gen August adding HomeKey, but the existing models, zero chance.
Yeah, this is a hardware limitation. There's nothing you can do to update it because without that NFC capability, you're kind of just, you can't, it's impossible. HomeKey requires that NFC connection for security reasons, like Bluetooth and everything else is just not as secure, right? So NFC requires proximity. It requires you to have the proper device and everything, and Face ID unlock and all that. So I feel like without that NFC chip, it's just not going to happen. And I think that's Apple's implementation, not even August's issue here. So like Andrew said, I think a future door lock would have it because this is one of those standards things where people will want this because it is the superior option. The old way, if August comes out with a new lock that works the same way the current ones do, unless people just don't know, and that's fair, some people generally don't know, it's not going to sell as well. Like educated buyers who know what they're looking for won't buy these locks if they don't have HomeKey. So I think they'll have to implement it if they're going to keep going.
Not to drag on this more because we're pushing an hour here, but the way that August also works would not work with HomeKey because August has a retrofit solution that only applies to the interior of your door. Like you're replacing the latch on the inside versus the exterior keyhole, and you do need to replace the keyhole for this to work because you cannot put the NFC chip on the inside of your door and then be able to get the handoff to your phone that's outside of the house. So August would need to find some way of replacing that outdoor part, which I feel like they're hesitant to do. So, like, technology-wise, Assa Abloy, Yale, everyone, like, they've got it, they understand it, they could do it. Whether or not it makes sense with an August form factor, if August is going to do something new, because I like the way that August design looks. Maybe there is a new outdoor part for a new August. Maybe you could get like a version with just the interior part that's matter, and then you could get like one that also replaces the exterior part that has matter plus HomeKey. And people have options. So I could see it, but with the existing form factor, that also just wouldn't work at the moment. So time for one last question, this time from Ian Judd on Twitter, Marooned Sailor. So he's looking for a HomeKit thread-enabled temperature sensor that he can put in a fridge, maybe even a chest freezer. If it works to monitor temperature and set alerts, if it goes out of the range for 15 to 25 minutes to avoid like leaving the door open. So yeah, there's ways you can set those things up. What I would tentatively worry about is whether or not that thread signal is going to make it outside of like the Faraday cage that is like a metal icebox.
There's multiple problems here. I would also include. Okay.
Here's the thing. If his worry is for when the door is left open, that could be the opportunity for this to connect and do its thing and its automations. Like, it literally could show offline perpetually, except for when he opens it. But if the worry is it's left open, and then you want to be able to get that alert in that situation, I could potentially see it. But it would not cover you for power failures or anything like that. And it seems like a contact sensor would do the job easier if you're just worried about the door being left open.
So I have a few problems and a solution. So the problem is not only is this a Faraday cage, basically, where you're not going to get any signal out, it's also moisture, wetness. Unless you buy a watertight sensor that's meant for outdoor weather monitoring that also has incredible temperature frequency below freezing, which a lot of these might go below freezing, but not far below freezing, because if any moisture gets in the components and it freezes, well, it's broken. It's just one of those things that's a little bit tricky, but the better route, I think, is don't worry about the temperature in the freezer or any kind of sensor that way. Your refrigerator should have an alarm, right? So if it's any kind of, I don't know, last decade fridge, I mean, if we're talking about a refrigerator from the 90s, I can't help you. I mean, maybe it's time to upgrade your refrigerator. But any modern refrigerator, you would be able to have it. There should be a settings panel somewhere. Have it alarm if the door's left open after a few seconds. That's just by default. So if you open your freezer door at all and you hear a beeping noise eventually, or your refrigerator and you hear a beeping noise, that's your door alarm. And what you can do is get a HomePod in your kitchen near that refrigerator if you don't already have one, and program it so you can what was it called? It's audio. It's a listening feature, but basically it can listen. You can train it to listen for that alarm and give you a signal on your phone, basically a notification that a noise has been heard for your program noise, and be notified every time your door is left open. And I think that is the route you should take, because that's the same thing I'm doing with my parents, who tend to leave the fridge standing wide open, and they've broken one refrigerator that way. It works. This is definitely the way to go. I just don't think a sensor, like, for multiple reasons, is going to help you in this situation.
I mean, I still think a contact sensor would work and cover the bases, even if it's not a
contact
fridge
sensor
that has the alarm. But like an Eve degree is going to cut. Like Eve degree will go below 0 with no problem. Can confirm. It's also weather resistant because it's made for outside, so that would cover all of the humidity issues and everything else that would do that. And that would also work inside of a chest freezer, which don't have alarms. Like, I know my chest freezer that is new does not have an alarm on it.
So I have a similar, not a freezer, but I have a similar situation where I needed to know if my gates were open or shut outside, and people don't really make door sensors for metal fence gates. So I bought a third-party 3D printed case for some Aqara door and window sensors, mounted them to the side of the fence. So now if the gate's open or shut, I can see an open or closed status in the home app. But even better, I set up a light indicator. I have one of those tower light strip guys, I believe from Govee, actually. It's just a tower that stands up vertically with a light strip that points away from you towards the wall. It kind of sits in a corner. It turns red when the gate's open and turns daylight or off when the gate is shut. Simple. So that way I know if I can let my dog out of the front door without it escaping. Similar idea for the freezer or chest. You can set up, you won't need weatherproof ones because it'll be outside of the environment, but set up door and window sensors on either door or both, or on the chest itself if you have a freezer chest, and maybe have a specific light somewhere where maybe in a populated area or a Hue Go or a light strip or something that'll change color as long as it's open and go back to a normal color or off when it's shut. That is another solution. I didn't think of that until you said contact sensor. So that would be a good idea too. I agree that a weather, like you said, the Eve or whatever would work below freezing. I just still don't think that signal is going to be strong enough. You're going to be dealing with a lot of issues in that department. I think you can be a little bit more clever than a temperature sensor if you give it a little bit of thought here. Like I said, either the sensors or the alarm setting.
So we have a random small fridge that kind of like acts up every once in a while, and I was like stuff would like freeze inside. I'm like, I wonder what the temperature actually is in here. So I put in my one of my Eve sensors, just the regular indoor temperature sensors that they make, Eve Room 2 or whatever. I put those in there. I don't remember checking them when like it was closed, but what was nice is that it stores all the historical data. So like I could open up the fridge or whatever, make sure it would connect to my phone, and I could see all the data from the last like however many days or whatever, pull into the Eve app, and I could actually see how the temperature would change over time. So it was really cool. So I think there's still benefits of using a temperature sensor, even if it isn't long term and used for like, whole automations. But it can be something at least to try out. And when you have one that has historical data, like the Eve ones, you can get even more information out of it.
Well, last thing, because we got to go. We've gone a little long. Was it you or Steven that set up the snack cabinet alarm? When someone opened the cabinet, it set off an alarm.
Yep. Yep.
That was you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's clever. I kind of like that idea. I want to start. I actually had briefly. I have a door sensor on my basement door, and my girlfriend had a bad habit of opening it to do things. So I made it so anytime that contact opened, it started playing Fall Out Boy. Panic at the Disco, with the Shut the Door lyrics, and really loud on her HomePods in her room. So I thought that was pretty clever. But yeah, there's a million ways you can do this stuff. You just gotta dig around, and we'll be happy to answer any more questions if you have any.
Cool. Well, thank you to everybody for listening. You can find Wes and I's handles for all of the stuff in the show notes. If you guys have any questions at all, please let us know. Reach out on social medias, whatever method you prefer. There's also my email in the show notes. You can also drop a comment in the YouTube video. You can watch the video of this episode, youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Give us 5, 10, 20-star reviews on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Otherwise, stay tuned. It's going to be a crazy few weeks as we get into CES season, new 2024 stuff. Lots of stuff to talk about. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.